15 years had passed since the royal child vanished into the blue energy storm. No one on Earth had ever heard of the lost world called Valora. To humans, it was just another name in the deep space records, one of many destroyed in wars between alien empires. But far from that forgotten tragedy, in the red deserts of Mars, a young human engineer named Ryan Hale was starting another long day. He worked for the Sol Frontier Station, a giant research base floating above the Martian surface. It was run by the United Earth Command, a cold and strict organization that believed in science first, compassion second. Ryan was different. He wasn't a soldier or a scientist with fancy degrees. He was a problem solver, a repairman who loved old machines, broken bots, and mysteries. While others followed rules, he followed his gut. That morning, the sky outside was dim and full of dust. The twin moons of Mars hung above the horizon like two pale coins. Ryan was testing a new bioscanner, a handheld device meant to detect minerals and energy patterns in the soil. The device wasn't supposed to pick up life signs. Mars was dead, yet the scanner began to beep. At first he thought it was an error, but the beeping grew louder, steady, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. He frowned and adjusted the settings. "That's impossible," he whispered. The reading showed a faint biological signal deep below the ground, at least a kilometer down in the old ice caves of Valles Marineris. Ryan called his supervisor, but the response was what he expected. Ignore it. Probably a glitch. Get back to work, but Ryan couldn't ignore it. His curiosity burned stronger than his fear of rules. He packed his gear, loaded a crawler vehicle, and drove across the red dunes toward the signal source. Hours passed. The wind howled. Dust scraped against his helmet like sandpaper. The deeper he went into the canyon, the stranger it felt. His scanner's light blinked faster, brighter, almost guiding him. Finally, he found a collapsed tunnel entrance half buried under rocks. The signal was strongest there. He set up a drill and started digging. The machine whined, sending vibrations through the cold Martian ground. After several minutes, the drill struck something solid, not rock, not ice, but smooth, like glass. Ryan brushed the dust away and gasped. Beneath the surface was a crystal chamber, glowing faintly blue. Inside it floated a small figure, a girl with silver hair drifting like smoke in water. She wasn't human. Her skin shimmered faintly, her ears slightly pointed, her clothes torn but decorated with strange golden symbols. Ryan froze. "Is this the body?" he whispered. He placed his hand against the crystal. The scanner beeped faster. The reading, life detected she was alive. Ryan knew he should report it, but something inside him said no. If he told command, they'd take her away, lock her in a lab, maybe even dissect her. He couldn't let that happen. He set up his tools, connected wires, and began cutting through the crystal carefully. The moment his cutter sliced the surface, the blue light pulsed, slow at first, then rapid like a heartbeat waking up. The air around him grew warmer. His helmet sensors screamed with warnings. Still, Ryan kept working. "It's okay," he murmured as if she could hear him. "I'm going to help you." The last layer cracked and suddenly the crystal shattered like glass. A blast of blue energy threw him back. His helmet lights flickered. When the dust cleared, she was lying on the ground, breathing weakly. Her silver eyes opened, glowing faintly in the dark cave. Ryan crawled toward her. "Hey, can you hear me?" She turned her head slowly, confused. Her lips moved, whispering sounds that didn't make sense. Her language was soft, melodic, but completely alien. He tried again gently. "You're safe. You're on Mars, I'm Ryan." She blinked. Her hand trembled as she reached toward his faceplate, touching the glass with her fingertips. Sparks of light danced between them for a second, like static electricity. Then she pulled back, frightened. Ryan lowered his voice. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." Her eyes searched his face, full of fear and wonder. Then suddenly her pupils flashed silver and the entire scanner in Ryan's hand exploded in a burst of light. He dropped it, startled. The explosion wasn't strong, but it filled the chamber with strange blue mist. When it cleared, Ryan saw something he couldn't explain. Tiny fragments of energy floating from her skin into the air, like stars. They faded quickly, leaving silence behind. The girl took a shaky breath and whispered one word. "Lyra." Ryan repeated softly. "Lyra." "Is that your name?" She nodded weakly. He looked around the cave. realizing they were far from help, but something in her fragile voice made him promise silently. He wouldn't leave her. Above them, far beyond the red dust and metal clouds, sensors on the research station flickered with strange readings. Unknown energy detected. Coordinates locked. Someone, or something, had just noticed Lyra was alive. And they were coming. The sun on Mars was faint, just a dull orange glow fighting through red dust. The planet looked like an endless desert of rust and silence. Inside that silence lived Ryan Hale, a young engineer with tired eyes and an old heart. He wasn't supposed to be here. Ryan once dreamed of exploring stars, discovering beauty in the void. But life had given him a badge, a uniform, and orders from people who saw Mars as nothing more than rock and profit. He worked for Earth Command Mining Corps, fixing machines, checking scanners, and staying quiet. He followed rules, but he didn't believe in them. That morning, the storm outside was bad enough to ground most crews. The air in the outpost shimmered with static from the red winds. Ryan stayed behind in the South Research Bay, surrounded by broken drones and empty coffee cups. He looked at the cracked surface of his scanner, sighed, and said to himself, "You're more loyal than half the people I work with." The scanner blinked back with a small green light, almost like it understood. He laughed quietly. "Guess it's just you and me, buddy." When the storm eased, Ryan decided to test the scanner again. He stepped out onto the observation deck. The horizon burned orange, endless dunes shifting like waves. He swept the device across the land, bored, waiting for the usual silence. Then, beep. He froze. Another beep, louder this time. The scanner's screen flashed with readings he'd never seen before. Not metal. Not radiation. Life. He blinked and adjusted the device. That can't be right. Mars was dead. Everyone knew that. But the scanner kept pulsing, showing a signal from deep underground several kilometers away. Steady, alive, and faintly warm. Ryan checked the coordinates. The reading came from an old impact crater, a place marked as off-limits due to unstable terrain. He should have reported it to command. Instead, he whispered, "Not today." He packed his tools, loaded his rover, and drove into the desert. The trip took 3 hours. The rover bounced across rock and dust, climbing ridges under a pink sky. Ryan hummed old Earth songs to keep himself calm. The scanner stayed on his dashboard, its green light still pulsing like a heartbeat. As he neared the crater, the signal grew stronger, so strong that the scanner began to overheat. "Easy, easy," he muttered, cooling it with his glove. He reached the crater's edge just as the sun dipped below the horizon. The Martian night came fast, turning everything cold and silver. The signal came from below, a cave half buried in rock. Ryan climbed down carefully, his boots sliding on loose sand. He reached the entrance, switched on his lamp, and stepped inside. The air felt different, thicker. He could almost taste metal. The deeper he went, the stranger it became. The cave walls glowed faintly blue, pulsing like veins of light. The scanner beeped so fast it sounded like a cry for help. Then he saw it, a crystal cocoon half buried in ice, floating slightly above the ground. Inside it, a small shape, a girl. Her hair silver white, her skin faintly glowing, her body peaceful as if asleep. Ryan's breath caught. "What are you?" He touched the surface, warm, alive. The crystal wasn't solid, it felt like energy frozen in form. His scanner displayed a single reading. Biological life. Active. He stumbled back, whispering, "This isn't human." For a long moment he just stared. Something deep inside him whispered that he shouldn't be here, that this discovery could change everything. But another part of him, the part that still believed in wonder, told him to help. He unpacked his tools and began cutting through the crystal carefully. Each cut sent waves of blue light across the walls. "Hang in there," he said softly. "I'll get you out." The last cut hissed and the cocoon cracked open. A burst of blue mist filled the air. Ryan shielded his face. When it cleared, the girl was lying on the ground, her chest rising and falling. She was breathing. Ryan knelt beside her, unsure what to do. He touched her wrist, warm, smooth, faintly glowing. Her eyes fluttered open, silver and bright. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Two lives from different worlds frozen in silence. Then she whispered something in a strange musical voice, soft and trembling. The words meant nothing to him, but the sound carried fear and hope mixed together. He smiled gently. "It's okay. You're safe." She frowned, not understanding. Ryan pointed at himself. Ryan, then at her. "You?" Her lips moved again, slower this time. Lyra, he repeated. "Nice to meet you." She blinked, as if trying to remember something. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook. The air grew heavy. Ryan's scanner started flashing red. Warning, energy surge detected. Before he could react, Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, and the cave walls lit up with the same blue veins of energy. The scanner exploded in sparks, and Ryan was thrown to the ground. When he looked up, she was kneeling, eyes wide, terrified, glowing like a star trying to stay alive. Outside, high above Mars, distant satellites recorded the pulse. A signal, unknown origin, unknown energy. Someone, somewhere in deep space, received it, and they began to move. Ryan woke to silence. His helmet lights flickered weakly, dust floating in the thin air around him. Every muscle in his body ached, and his scanner lay in pieces beside him, its wires glowing faintly blue. Then he remembered. The girl. He turned quickly. She was still there, lying on the ground, her silver hair spread like spilled light across the rocky floor. But now she was breathing steadily, her chest rising and falling in slow rhythm. The blue glow around her had faded, leaving her looking almost human. Almost. Ryan knelt beside her. "Hey, Lyra, right?" No answer. He gently tapped her shoulder, and her eyes opened. For a moment he felt like the world had stopped moving. Her gaze was sharp and endless, silver and deep like liquid metal. She sat up suddenly, gasping, her hands shaking. She looked around wildly, fear in every movement. "Easy," Ryan said softly, raising his hands. "It's okay. You're safe." She didn't understand. Her words came out in a strange, melodic language, soft, quick like singing. Ryan shook his head. "I don't get it. I don't speak that." Lyra frowned and tried again, slower, but it still sounded like music from a dream. She looked down at the broken scanner, then back at Ryan. Her hand trembled as she reached for his helmet. Before he could stop her, she touched the glass. A small spark jumped between them. His earpiece buzzed, and suddenly, he heard her voice, clear as thought. "Who are you?" Ryan froze. "What? How did you—" Her eyes widened too. "You can hear me?" He nodded slowly. "I think so. You're speaking in my head?" Lyra looked confused, but she nodded. "It must be the link. My energy touched yours. I can use your mind to understand." Ryan tried to smile, even though his heart raced. "Well, that's one way to learn English fast." She blinked, tilting her head. "English?" "Yes, that's what I speak." Lyra touched her temple. "Strange sounds. Small words. But they carry feeling. I like it." He chuckled nervously. "Thanks, I guess." As the cave grew colder, Ryan gave her his thermal blanket. She accepted it awkwardly, staring at the rough fabric as if she'd never seen such a thing. "Where are you from?" he asked quietly. Lyra's gaze dropped. "A world called Velora," Ryan frowned. "Never heard of it." "You shouldn't have." Her voice grew faint. It was erased. She closed her eyes, pain flickering across her face. "My people were strong once. We ruled the skies of many suns. Then they came, dark ships with fire that ate the sky. They wanted our crystals, our light. We fought, but they burned our world. My family, thrown from the peaks. I fell and fell. And then nothing." Her voice trembled. "How long was I asleep?" Ryan hesitated. "About 15 years. Lyra looked away. "Then they're all gone." A faint rumble echoed through the cave. Ryan checked his wrist computer, motion sensors picking up something above. He frowned. "I think we've got company." Lyra's head snapped up. "They found me?" He blinked. "Who?" "The hunters." Before he could ask more, she stood quickly. Her balance wavered, but her eyes glowed faintly again. She pointed toward the tunnel entrance. "We must leave now." Ryan grabbed his pack. Wait, what are these hunters?" "Those who killed my world," she said coldly. "They follow the light of Velora wherever it hides." Ryan cursed under his breath. "And you just sent a big glowing signal when you woke up." She looked at him with guilt. "Yes, my power. It reached out when I awoke. It was not meant to." The rumble grew louder. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ryan pulled her toward the rover parked outside the cave. They stumbled into the cold Martian night. The sky above shimmered with strange light, metal shapes moving fast, high in orbit. Ryan's stomach dropped. "Those aren't Earth ships." Lyra's expression hardened. "They are here for me." He climbed into the rover and started the engine. "Then let's not be home when they knock." As the rover sped across the red dunes, Ryan glanced at Lyra. She stared at the stars through the window, whispering in her own language. "What are you saying?" he asked. "A prayer," she replied softly. "To those who fell. To those who may still live." "Do you think anyone from your world survived?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes now calm, glowing faintly. "I don't know. But if they did, they will come when they feel my light again. I just hope they reach us before the hunters do." Ryan tightened his grip on the wheel. "Then we better keep moving." Above them, 3 dark ships broke through the clouds, their lights scanning the surface. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering one last line that chilled Ryan's heart. "The war that ended my world is about to begin again." The Martian desert slept under a blood-red sky. The wind whispered through endless dunes, carrying the taste of iron and dust. Ryan's rover raced across the sand, its engines howling in the emptiness. Behind him, 3 dark ships glided low through the atmosphere, silent, sharp, and hunting. Their lights cut through the dust like knives. Inside the rover, Ryan Hale gripped the controls tightly. His hands were trembling, but his focus was sharp. Next to him sat Lyra, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim cabin light. "Who are they?" Ryan shouted over the engine roar. Lyra turned toward the sky, her voice calm but heavy. "They are the Empire's seekers. They find what should have died." "Great," Ryan muttered. "Guess we're the what?" She didn't smile. Her fingers pressed against the glass window, glowing faintly blue. Outside, the red dust rippled like a heartbeat. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Hiding us," she said simply. A shimmer passed over the rover. Like a ripple in air, the engine sound dimmed and the lights flickered out. The vehicle vanished from sight, hidden beneath a soft blue haze. Ryan blinked. "You just cloaked us." Lyra nodded weakly. "Only for a while. It drains my energy." He stared at her, realizing she wasn't just some survivor. She was power itself, walking and breathing beside him. For 2 hours, they drove in silence. Ryan guided the rover through narrow canyons, trying to stay out of sight. The storm above had faded, leaving a pale pink dawn. Lyra looked exhausted. Her skin glowed faintly, her breathing shallow. "Hey," he said gently. "You okay?" She gave a faint smile. "My light fades when I use too much. I will recover." Ryan pulled the rover to a stop beside a jagged rock wall. "We'll rest here. I need to think." They stepped out into the cold morning air. Ryan set up a small energy shield to block scanners, then sat on a rock. Lyra stood a few feet away, watching the rising sun. For a moment, Mars looked almost beautiful. A lonely beauty, quiet and ancient. Ryan broke the silence. "Why did they want to kill you?" Lyra's eyes stayed on the horizon. "Because I was born with light. My people, the Velaran, carried a gift. The ability to shape energy itself. To heal, to build, to destroy. My family ruled and the Empire feared us. They came with warships and fire. I was 10 when they threw me from the cliffs of my world." Ryan listened quietly. The way she spoke, calm, almost gentle, made it worse. The story was too big, too painful. He asked softly, "And now they know you're alive?" She nodded. "The energy I released when I woke, it called across space. The hunters heard." Ryan sighed. "Then we can't stay here. Earth Command's going to notice the energy too. They'll send soldiers, maybe even join your enemies." Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. "You risk much for me, Ryan Hale. Why?" He hesitated. "Because you were alone, and scared, and because everyone deserves a second chance." For the first time, Lyra smiled. A small, fragile smile that carried warmth. "On my world, such words are rare." The scanner on Ryan's wrist beeped suddenly. He looked down, movement approaching from orbit. "They found us again." Lyra's glow flared bright for a second, then faded. "I can't hide us now. My strength is gone." Ryan made a quick decision. "Then we run, but not on Mars." Lyra blinked. "What do you mean?" He pointed at the horizon where a small metal shape shimmered in the light. "There's an old research ship buried in the canyon ahead. It's not much, but it can fly." They sprinted back to the rover. Dust exploded behind them as the hunter ships descended. The ground shook and beams of light scorched the sand. "Hold on," Ryan shouted, pushing the rover to full power. They reached the edge of the canyon just as explosions tore through the rocks. The old research ship was half buried in dust, its hull cracked and ancient, but its engines still intact. Ryan jumped out, pried open the hatch, and dragged Lyra inside. The controls were dead. He slammed his hand on the power switch and nothing. Then Lyra stepped forward. She placed her hand on the console and her veins glowed blue. Energy flowed through the ship like lightning. The engines roared to life. Ryan grinned. "Remind me never to doubt alien royalty again." The ship lifted off just as a blast hit the ground where they'd stood. The force threw them forward, but the craft climbed higher, breaking through the thin Martian clouds. Below, the hunters fired, but their shots missed as Lyra spread her hand, bending light around them. Ryan looked out the window as Mars shrank below. "We did it," he breathed. Lyra stared at the stars. "No," she whispered. "We only escaped the first shadow." Ryan frowned. "What's next?" "The Empire will not stop. And when they find me again, they will bring war to your world." She turned to him, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "Unless we find those who still remember me. The ones who survived Velora." Ryan nodded. "Then that's where we go." Lyra reached out her hand. "To the edge of stars, then, human." He took it, the ship drifting into the dark void of space. Behind them, Mars burned quietly under the red dawn, and far above, a signal pulsed through the stars, warning the galaxy. The lost princess of Velora lives. Space was quiet, too quiet. The old ship drifted between stars, its metal bones creaking softly as it glided through the dark. Inside, the hum of engines mixed with the slow rhythm of two tired hearts. Ryan sat in the pilot's seat, eyes heavy but alert. He hadn't slept in 2 days. Lyra rested near the back of the ship, wrapped in a blanket, her silver hair faintly glowing in the dim light. They had escaped Mars, but freedom felt fragile, like glass floating in fire. Ryan checked the radar again. Nothing. No signals. No life. Just emptiness. Then faintly a blip appeared on the screen, far behind them, moving slowly but steadily. "Not good," he muttered. Lyra stirred, her eyes opening at once, glowing faintly. "They are following us again." He turned. "How do you always know before I even say it?" "I can feel them," she said quietly. "Their ships are alive with the same energy that destroyed my world." "It burns in my mind," Ryan frowned. "Then we need to lose them." "You cannot," Lyra said. "They are seekers. Once they sense royal blood, they never stop." Her calm voice made his stomach tighten. "Then what do we do?" She looked out the window, the stars reflected in her silver eyes. "We find those who still remember Velora." "They can help." Ryan blinked. "You mean there are others?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Scattered across space. Some fled before the fall. They went silent, waiting for a sign from the royal line." Ryan leaned back. "You mean you?" She looked down. "I thought I was the last." He thought for a moment. "Then maybe it's time to let them know the princess is alive." Lyra hesitated. "If I send the beacon, the hunters will see it too." Ryan shrugged. "They already know we exist. Might as well give your friends a chance." She smiled faintly. "You are reckless, human," he grinned. "You're not the first to say that." Lyra walked to the center of the ship, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. She raised her hands and soft light filled the room. Lines of energy formed symbols in the air, a language older than human memory. Ryan watched, amazed. "What is that?" "The royal code," she said softly. "It calls across the light of stars. Those who still carry our essence will hear it." The ship trembled. Blue light flowed through every wire, every circuit, as if the vessel itself had come alive. Ryan's hair stood on end. "Okay, that's kind of amazing." Lyra didn't answer. Her eyes closed, her face calm but strained. The light around her grew brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Suddenly, the control panel beeped. Ryan looked down. Dozens of signals lit up on the radar, all around them. Lyra, we've got a lot of company. Some may be allies," she whispered. "Some not." Then the entire ship shook violently. An explosion flashed outside the window. Ryan gripped the controls. "That's not an ally." He turned sharply, dodging another blast. Outside, enormous ships emerged from the shadows. dark, sharp, and covered in red markings. The hunters had found them. Lyra fell to one knee, her glow flickering. They came faster than I thought. Then hold on, Ryan shouted, spinning the ship hard to the right. Laser fire lit up the void. The old engine screamed, metal plates rattling under the stress. One shot hit their side, sending sparks flying. Shields down, Ryan yelled. Lyra reached out, touching the wall. Blue energy surged through her hand into the ship, forming a glowing barrier outside. The next blast hit the shield and bounced away. Ryan looked back at her in awe. You just made a force field out of thin air. Not thin air, she said, breathing hard. My life. Her glow dimmed, her skin pale. Stop, Ryan said quickly. You're burning yourself out. Lyra shook her head. If we die here, it won't matter. You must reach the Valoran signal base before it's too late. Ryan's jaw tightened. Then we do this together. He slammed the engines to maximum power. The ship roared ahead, skimming the surface of a nearby asteroid field. Behind them, hunter ships followed, crashing into rocks as they chased. Ryan's hands flew across the controls, twisting the ship through narrow gaps. Lyra raised her arm weakly. Blue energy trailed from her fingertips, forming bright orbs that floated behind them like mines. Each orb exploded as a hunter ship came close. The void filled with flashes of light and fire. Finally, Ryan saw an opening, a wormhole-like tunnel of light ahead. He pointed. There! Lyra looked up. Her eyes widened. That is not a wormhole. It's a gate, he frowned. Good or bad? She smiled faintly. Both. The ship shot forward, breaking through the shimmering tunnel. For a moment, the world vanished into white. When the light faded, they were in another part of space, quiet, cold, full of drifting ruins. Broken ships floated everywhere, glowing faintly blue. Ryan's voice was soft. What is this place? Lyra stared out the window, tears filling her eyes. Home, she whispered. What's left of it? Ryan swallowed hard. Velora. She nodded. Yes, and maybe. The ones who still live. Behind them, the tunnel flickered, and one last hunter ship slipped through. Lyra turned to Ryan, her voice low but steady. They followed us into the grave of my people. Ryan gripped the controls. Then let's make sure they don't leave it. The wreckage of Velora floated like ghosts in the endless dark. Broken ships drifted through space, glowing faintly with the blue light of old energy. The silence there was heavy, the silence of a world that had died screaming. Ryan guided the ship slowly through the debris. Every piece of metal that passed by looked ancient, marked with strange runes and scorched battle scars. Beside him, Lyra stood quietly. Her eyes were fixed on the floating ruins, her hands trembling slightly. This was my home, she whispered. The city of Astron floated above those clouds once. My mother's palace stood there, bright as a star. Ryan glanced at her. I'm sorry, Lyra. She shook her head slowly. Don't be. You didn't burn it. But her voice cracked at the last word. They drifted deeper into the graveyard of ships. The old scanner flickered weakly. Faint energy ahead. Ryan turned the ship toward the signal. Through the thick clouds of dust, a massive shape appeared. A colossal structure, still glowing with dim light. It wasn't a ship. It was a station, half ruined but alive. Lyra gasped softly. The Royal Beacon. Ryan frowned. What's that? It was our heart, she said quietly. It connects every Valoran mind. If it still beats, my people may still exist. Ryan looked at her. Then let's wake it up. The ship docked on a cracked platform. The airlock hissed open, releasing a cold mist that smelled of dust and memory. Inside the station, light flickered weakly. The walls were lined with crystals that once shone like stars. Now they glowed dull and tired. Lyra walked ahead, her bare feet echoing softly. As she moved, the lights around her brightened one by one, as if recognizing her. Ryan followed, scanning the halls. Creepy place, he muttered. Lyra ignored him. Her eyes were fixed on a massive crystal throne at the center of the chamber. She approached it slowly. This was my mother's seat, she said. It can connect to the living core scattered through space. She placed her hand on the crystal. A faint hum filled the air, soft at first, then growing stronger. Ryan's scanner beeped wildly. Energy levels rising, fast. Light burst through the floor, spiraling up the walls. A holographic map formed in the air, showing thousands of stars, and glowing blue dots scattered across them. Lyra's voice trembled. They're alive. Valoran colonies hidden, waiting. Ryan smiled. Then we can call them. You can rebuild your world. Lyra turned to him, her expression both hopeful and afraid. If I awaken the network, the hunters will see it too. They will come with their fleets. Ryan shrugged. They're already chasing us. Might as well give them a fight worth running from. She looked at him for a long moment, and then smiled. You speak like a Valoran soldier. He grinned. Guess I've been promoted. Lyra closed her eyes and focused. Her hair floated slightly as energy filled the room. The crystals glowed brighter, humming in harmony. The station came alive, pulsing with the light of her bloodline. Ryan watched in awe. You're bringing it back. Then the ground shook. He turned toward the viewport and his heart sank. A massive warship had emerged from the dark, black as night, shaped like a blade. Red symbols burned across its hull, the Empire's flagship. Lyra's glow flickered. Her lips parted in shock. That is him. Who? Ryan demanded. The one who threw me from the cliffs. Ryan's blood ran cold. You mean? Yes, she whispered. Lord Kale. The ship's speakers crackled with a deep, cruel voice. So the little star still burns. I told the universe it couldn't save you. Lyra stood tall. Her glow brightened again. You failed, Kyle. My world still lives and through me. Then you'll die twice, the voice said darkly. A beam of red energy fired from the Empire's ship, slamming into the station. The walls shook violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Ryan shouted, Shields won't hold long. Lyra raised both hands. Blue light burst from her palms, forming a barrier that met the red beam. The clash of colors filled the void, red and blue twisting together, lightning tearing through space. Ryan ran to the controls. You can't hold it forever. I don't need forever, she said through clenched teeth. Just long enough. The crystal throne behind her blazed to life. Thousands of blue signals across the star map lit up one after another. Ryan's eyes widened. You called them. Every survivor, Lyra said. Every lost ship, every sleeping beacon. Outside, space shimmered. Dozens, then hundreds of Valoran ships appeared from the darkness, their engines glowing bright blue. The flagship's voice roared, No! You cannot rise again. Lyra's eyes blazed like twin suns. You tried to kill a child. Now face the woman she became. The Valoran fleet fired as one. The explosion shook the stars. The Empire's warship cracked apart, its red light fading into nothing. Ryan collapsed beside Lyra as the blue glow faded from her hands. She smiled weakly. It's over. For now. He caught her before she fell. You did it, Lyra. You brought them back. Her eyes fluttered open. No, Ryan. We did. Outside the station, the Valoran fleet formed a ring of light around them, the rebirth of a fallen empire. And somewhere in the distance, through static and starlight, a new voice whispered over the radio. Princess Lyra of Valora, your people await your command. The stars were burning. The battle was over, but the sky still shimmered with the light of dying ships. Fragments of the Empire's fleet drifted through space like falling ashes, silent reminders of a war reborn and ended in one breath. Inside the half-ruined royal beacon, the air was heavy with smoke and fading energy. Sparks crawled along the walls and blue light flickered weakly through the cracked crystal veins. Ryan knelt beside Lyra, who lay on the cold floor, her silver hair tangled around her face. Her glow was dim now, her breathing shallow. Hey, stay with me, he whispered, shaking her shoulder gently. Her lips curved faintly. You're still here? Of course I am, Ryan said softly. You think I'd leave after all this? She tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. You humans, so stubborn. He smiled through the ache in his chest. You're one to talk. Around them, the Valoran fleet floated silently, their blue lights pulsing in rhythm as if holding their breath. The princess who had returned from death had fallen silent again, and her people waited. Ryan looked through the broken viewport at the endless stars. We did it, Lyra. You beat him. You're free now. She opened her eyes slowly, the silver fading into gray. Free, maybe, but power always has a price. Her hand trembled as she reached toward the glowing crystal throne. The beacon is dying. Without it, my people cannot find each other again. I must give it more light, Ryan frowned. No, you've done enough. You'll die if you push yourself again. She smiled faintly. It won't be the first time I fall. He grabbed her hand. Not again. Not while I'm here, the ground rumbled. Energy surged through the room as the throne began to crack. Ryan turned to the control panel, desperate for a solution. There's got to be another way to feed it power. Something, anything. Lyra looked at him, tears in her eyes. Human hearts burn brighter than you think. Maybe you could help me? Ryan hesitated. What do you mean? Our energies linked once when you freed me. If I take a part of yours, I might awaken the beacon. You may not survive. He stared at her, realizing what she was asking. A choice, her world or his life. He smiled sadly. Guess it's my turn to be reckless. Lyra shook her head. Ryan, he squeezed her hand. Hey, if I die, you better make sure it counts. Her tears floated in the air like small glowing pearls. I will remember you forever. He smiled softly. Then it's worth it. Lyra closed her eyes and placed her palm against his chest. Light spread between them, soft at first, then brighter, flooding the room with blue fire. Ryan gasped as warmth and pain surged through him, but he didn't pull away. The beacon roared back to life. Every crystal in the chamber blazed with energy. The map of stars above them flared, thousands of blue dots igniting across the galaxy. Ryan's vision blurred. He saw faces, Velorans awakening from hiding, ships rising from forgotten moons, cities rebuilding from dust. He smiled through the light. You did it, Lyra. Her voice echoed softly in his mind. No, Ryan. We did. And then everything went white. When the light faded, Lyra stood alone before the throne, her glow brighter than ever. The beacon pulsed steadily, alive once more. She looked down. Ryan lay motionless on the floor, peaceful, a faint shimmer of blue light still glowing at his heart. Tears ran down her cheeks. She knelt and whispered, You saved a royal and a world. The Valoran ships outside began to sing, not with voices, but with sound waves that rippled through space, a morning hymn carried by the stars. Lyra lifted Ryan's hand to her forehead and closed her eyes. I will not let your light fade. Hours later, as the fleet gathered around the beacon, Lyra stepped onto the command bridge of her people's flagship. She now wore a white royal mantle, old and torn but glowing faintly with life. Across the comms, countless voices spoke at once. Princess Lyra, your orders? She looked at the stars, her voice calm but strong. No more war. No more vengeance. We rebuild. For every life lost. And for one human who showed us mercy. The voices answered as one. As you command, your grace. Later, in her private chamber, Lyra stood before a small crystal capsule. Inside it floated a spark of light, a fragment of Ryan's energy still alive. She touched the glass gently. Sleep, my friend. Your heart now beats within our stars. Outside the window, the fleet moved across the void, spreading light to every corner of the dark galaxy. Worlds that had forgotten Velora began to glow again. And among the stars, a legend was born, of a human engineer who saved a fallen princess, and of a royal who rose from death to rebuild her world. They called it the tale of the human who saved a royal. And somewhere, in the quiet hum of the stars, Ryan's voice seemed to whisper back, Told you, Lyra. Everyone deserves a second chance.